So welcome, my name is Philip Muessig with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. I work with Paul Moss, who was, who will obviously compute to Paul. We work in the non-regulatory side as a new division of the MPCA called the Prevention and Assistance Division. And we are just thrilled to welcome mayors, city council members, township supervisors, county commissioners, city and county staff, and then organizations that are working with cities and counties sort of addressing climate and energy issues. So, well, we're hoping to have a fair bit of discussion, and we'll have a break. We're scheduled in a break here midway, and then lunch will be about 12:30. And people can stay for lunch. We'll have actual box lunches, so you can just grab a box lunch and not even to stay. So we felt very compelled to sort of come back, pull together cities and counties sort of addressing climate and energy issues after a June 6th conference that we were at, where we found just so much sort of support and urgency and concern about sort of how our city is going to adapt to a changing climate and to what is clear as we look at oil prices, to a really changing energy environment. And so that sort of lower carbon future, which will be brought on by the sort of work toward the dramatic goals that the legislature set in terms of energy use reduction, energy efficiency, and CO2 reduction. And then the reality of sort of a coming geologic peak in world oil production. So that sort of lower carbon future is one that cities, there are opportunities there, but for cities and counties that don't start to work on it, we're just very worried that it's going to be a very hard transition, sort of energy transition. So with 30 cities, by the end of the year, we'll have at least 30 cities in Minnesota that signed, whose mayors and or city council members have signed Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. We thought, well, you know, how natural just to pull you all together.
Hey, this is my debut on YouTube, so hello everyone. Good morning. As he had introduced me, I'm Ellen Richter, work over at the City of White Bear Lake as the assistant to the city manager. And on the agenda it says I'm going to talk about carbon counting, so it makes it sound as if I'm an expert, and we are not. But at the same time, we are trying to delve into it, and I think that poses a challenge for our community, as I'm imagining it does for many of you out there. How many of you have joined ICLEI? I'm curious. Few. And I know Duluth is very active in ICLEI. And Duluth, I want to say, has actually gone through the process that we're just beginning to undertake, as I understand it. They have used the software, is that correct, Duluth representatives, to do your measurements? So I think that in the end, they may be someone that we'll all want to, I'll step back, talk to for some, how did it go, how much time did it take, because we're just beginning that. But as a representative from a community that's smaller and perhaps doesn't have the same staff capabilities that maybe some larger communities do, I think I can speak to that. And we did sign the mayor's agreement after our mayor was invited to the thing at the Science Museum, which was a great kickoff, thank you. And as a result, we also joined ICLEI, which is an international organization for local governments who are interested in doing things like we're doing here today. And I think most of you probably have heard of it, and many of you are contemplating whether or not to join it. Some of you have called me and asked, is it worth the $600? Do you get anything from it? And I have to say, at the very beginning, I was thinking, I don't know, I have a bunch of books that talk about things that were done around the world that look great. I don't know what to do with this. You know, help. I'm calling Philip. And now since then, as I've delved into it and as they've come along, it is an amazing organization. So I want to now stand up here and say, absolutely, without a doubt, join it. It's worth every penny. So I'll start off by putting a plug in for ICLEI. My job at the City of White Bear Lake entails many different duties, as I'm sure all of yours do as well. My ability to spend time on the climate change concerns that we have, or with my commission, the Environmental and Sustainable Practices Commission that we have at the city, is more limited than I would like it to be. but it's where it's at. So starting from there, we were muddling through trying to figure out how to move forward. We're fortunate to be partnering with, beginning a partnership with the City of Montevideo. We've applied for a grant through the MPCA to see if we can get some assistance in helping someone help us work with the software. But having said that, we're going to plug ahead in our own, doing at least the city carbon counting, I guess, using the software, which is what I will begin to speak on at this point. I've just started that process, so in doing so, really basically what they're asking you to do is simply, yet in taking some time to go through your Excel records and going through and looking at your gas consumption, which is just going through historical records that most of us have in our finance department or in the public works department. Now that will take time, but we'll do it. And moving forward from that, I did go through the training for the software. I think I want to do it again. It was a 2-day deal that we did through the web, and each session was 3 hours, and it was very, I would say, as user-friendly as it can be for someone like me who didn't like science and isn't real technically oriented. So I did at the same time find it somewhat user-friendly, and I do look forward to going through it one more time now that I'm really beginning the process and I'm ready to kind of take the info that I've begun gathering. But I don't want it to scare people when they first look at it, because it seems scary. In fact, they provide, and I think I said it here, you can print out a manual that's this thick on how to go through it step by step, but it's very comprehensive, and it does go through step by step. So once you do the web training, you can reference what you've learned in the manual that they provide. And they provide a lot of printouts, and every week I'm getting a new email with yet additional resources with what new cities that have joined ICLEI have already done. So again, I would just encourage you to think hard about joining ICLEI. In terms of staff time, I'm hoping that I can be a resource for other communities. Our commission can be to talk better about it in a few months once we've gone through. We're going to keep very close track of how much time we actually spend on it that first time around, knowing that many others will be thinking about it and wondering, wait, what do we need to dedicate toward this? So I'm hoping that we can be a resource to that. There are 2 pieces of it in terms of doing your counting. There is, as a municipality or as a county, you can look at your own operations, your buildings, and that to me will be much more simple, hopefully, and that's what we're going to try to do initially. And then moving forward beyond that, we'll be looking at our community, and we will be looking at how businesses in our community, how our residents using our traffic, how do we contribute as a community to the emissions. And I'm not going to use the little CO2 and all that, because again, I'm not a scientist, but I'm learning a tremendous amount. I do want to speak a bit to, I have 1 minute, to something else that is coming out there, which is called the Climate Registry, and I want to make a distinction between the two from my understanding. The Climate Registry is something that the state of Minnesota, and I think they may speak to it later on, I'm not sure if they will, but to me it was something that Minnesota and, as I understand, 35 other states are, am I right, Philip? Are becoming partners in. And this is a tool, again, it's a software tool, not probably, I'm sure it's different than what ICLEI provides, but it will also measure your carbon emissions, and it's very comprehensive. They worked with the EPA on developing it. They also worked with ICLEI. So they developed this software in coordination with ICLEI. It does not compete with ICLEI. And so when you start hearing about the Climate Registry, which you will, because it's currently under review, it will be coming out in 2008. It is really, as I understand it, a policy-neutral software. It is ways of measuring and standardizing measurements. ICLEI, on the other hand, is more of a tool to give us what do we do with this information? How do we move forward? It's more of a networking tool, and it definitely is not policy-neutral. So if you hear about Climate Registry, there were initial concerns like, well, okay, now what? You know, I'm learning about ICLEI software, now there's this other software. We as a city are moving forward with the ICLEI measurements. From my understanding, initially, we will be able to transfer that information probably much more easily once we've had that data gathered to the Climate Registry, so we can then share our data with the rest of the business community and